Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi concludes historic Ukraine visit, calls for a diplomatic solution to resolve the Ukraine-Russia conflict, reiterates India's willingness to contribute to facilitate an early return of peace in the region. India's Defence Minister holds talks with US Defence Secretary Lloyd Austin, discusses ways to deepen existing defence ties. The US, along with countries in Europe and Latin America, reject the certification by Venezuela's Supreme Court of Nicolas Maduro's presidential election. 3 people killed in a suspected knife attack in western German city of Solingen. Search underway for the unknown attacker. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has successfully concluded his maiden visit for any top Indian leader to conflict-ridden Ukraine. It saw him holding bilateral talks with President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv, which led to the signing of 4 important agreements. The leaders also came up with a joint statement where Prime Minister Modi assured the Ukrainian leader of India's all possible help to facilitate an early return of peace.
In a historic move, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv, marking the first ever visit by an Indian leader to Ukraine. The bilateral meeting held at the Mariinsky Palace, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi reiterated India's support for dialogue and diplomacy to restore peace and stability.
मैं आपको विश्वास दिलाता हूं कि मानवीय दृष्टिकोण से भी जिस प्रकार की मदद की आवश्यकता होगी, भारत हमेशा हमेशा आपके साथ खड़ा रहेगा और 2 कदम आगे चलेगा.
During his visit, Prime Minister Modi also toured the multimedia martyrologist exposition on children at the National Museum of History of Ukraine. Accompanied by President Zelensky, he was deeply moved. As a gesture of respect, he placed a toy in their memory and expressed his deep sorrow over the tragic loss of young lives.
हमने जो दूसरा मार्ग चुना, वो दूसरा मार्ग है युद्ध से दूर रहने का. हम बहुत ही कन्विक्शन के साथ युद्ध से दूर रहे हैं, लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि हम तटस्थ थे. हम न्यूट्रल नहीं थे. हम पहले दिन से ही पक्षकार रहे हैं और हमारा पक्ष है शांति का.
Prime Minister Modi also paid homage to Mahatma Gandhi at his statue in Kiev. He highlighted the enduring relevance of Gandhi's message of peace in addressing global challenges. Post-bilateral talk, India and Ukraine also held a delegation-level talk, where leaders held discussions on trade, defense, pharmaceuticals, agriculture and education. India and Ukraine also exchanged agreements in the field of agriculture and food industry, cooperation in the field of medical product regulation, Indian humanitarian grant assistance for high-impact community development projects, and in the field of cultural cooperation. India is providing medical assistance to Ukraine, which includes indigenous portable hospital, Bhishma cubes and other medical equipments.
As of today, we have agreed on the 4 documents that will be signed during this truly historic visit between Ukraine and India. These are regarding the medical field, the agricultural cooperation, humanitarian dimension, and I am grateful for all of this, and I am happy to see you, Mr. Prime Minister, and glory to Ukraine.
Earlier in the day, the Indian community in Ukraine warmly welcomed Prime Minister Modi. This landmark visit symbolizes a significant chapter in the diplomatic relations between India and Ukraine. Bureau Report, DD India.
Prime Minister interacted with Ukrainian students who are learning Hindi language at the School of Oriental Studies in Kyiv. Prime Minister appreciated the scholarship of the students and their contribution to promoting mutual understanding between people of the two countries. He also commended their efforts to bring Indian culture and history closer to the Ukrainian people.
सब पहली बार घटित हो रहा है तो बड़ी आशा से देख रहे हैं इसको और ऐसा हम बहुत चाहते हैं कि सांस्कृतिक संबंध राजनीतिक संबंध दृढ़ होते जाए।
यूक्रेन के लिए ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है क्योंकि ये पहली बार है और मुझे बहुत आशा है कि इस मुलाकात के बाद लोगों को ये ज़्यादातर लोगों को ये पता हो जाएगा कि वास्तव में यूक्रेन और भारत के बीच अच्छा रिश्ता बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है और मुझे आशा है कि भविष्य में यूक्रेन में ज़्यादातर लोग हिंदी सीखने चाहेंगे।
मुझे हिंदी बहुत पसंद है क्योंकि भारत एक दिलचस्प और बहुत सुंदर देश है।
Amid Prime Minister Modi's visit to Poland and Ukraine, we take a look at Polish capital Warsaw's Curry King. It's an Indian-themed restaurant serving authentic Indian cuisine and exceptional dishes. It's a place that combines tradition with modernity. DD India's Vishal Barristow brings us more.
It's weekend in Warsaw and people are enjoying their lunch here. But what's so special about this place and why did I bring you here? Well, this is an Indian restaurant, Curry King. It is here that you get best of Indian food along with the Polish delicacies. Kuba, what is this?
It is mango lassi.
Mango lassi in Warsaw. Wow. Do you like it?
Yeah, it's my favorite.
This is called tikka masala. And some rice with it. I really like it. It's really good. One of my favorites, actually.
This is pasanta, my favorite. Not very hot. Perfect.
Authentic Indian food. So we all know, like in Poland, Curry King is best Indian restaurant. So we are trying authentic Indian food.
This is my favorite restaurant. Of course, every Indians know who are living in Poland that this is best.
How proud do you feel when you get so much of recognition?
I'm really so happy. Every year, almost, I got this award for our restaurant. So I'm so proud.
So it is nice to see how people come here and through them they get to know about India and they are the true ambassadors of India in Poland. With cameraman Sanjeev in Warsaw, this is Vishal Barristow for DD India.
India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, who was on Washington visit, met National Security Advisor of the United States, Jake Sullivan. Both the leaders shared perspectives on key strategic matters of mutual interest. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh on Friday met US Secretary of Defence Lloyd Austin and reviewed and discussed ways to further deepen existing defence cooperation between the two countries. During his visit to Washington, D.C., the minister acknowledged the signing of security of supply agreements and the agreement for positioning of Indian officers at key U.S. commands as path-breaking developments. Earlier in the day, Rajnath Singh also visited the Arlington National Cemetery in Washington and paid respects to the tomb of the unknown soldiers. India's Home Minister Amit Shah will chair the Interstate Anti-Naxal Review meeting in East India's Raipur on Saturday. During the meeting, the Home Minister will assess both the measures taken against Naxal insurgency and the advancement of infrastructure projects in regions known as Red Corridors within 9 states troubled by left-wing extremism. The meeting will witness participation of Chief Secretaries and Director Generals of Police from neighbouring states, including Police Chiefs of Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh, Jharkhand, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Telangana and West Bengal. These are the states where Naxalism has been constricted. Now, the Home Minister will also chair a meeting on the expansion of cooperation on Saturday. An Indian passenger bus carrying 40 people veered off the road and plunged into the Marzyangdi River in Nepal's Tanahun district on Friday, claiming the lives of 27 passengers. President of India Draupadi Murmu expressed grief over the loss of lives in the accident. In a post on social media platform X, she wrote, and I quote her, "Grieved by the tragic bus accident in Tanahun district of Nepal, in which many Indian nationals lost their lives. My deep condolences to the bereaved families. I pray for speedy recovery of the injured, and I unquote. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also condoled the loss of lives. On social media platform X, he wrote, and I quote him, saddened by the loss of lives due to a road mishap in Tanahan district in Nepal. Condolences to the bereaved families. May the injured recover at the earliest. The Indian Embassy is providing all possible assistance to those affected. August 23rd, 2024 marks India's maiden National Space Day. Now, this day in 2023, India scripted history in space by being the first country to land on the lunar South Pole. DD India Sakal Bhatt caught up with Professor Satyanarayan Chakravarti from IIT Madras, who has helped various high-profile startups, including 3D printed rocket launched from ISRO. Professor Chakravarti speaks on India's growing space prowess and space revolution in the last one decade. Let's listen in.
On the very first National Space Day, Professor Narayan, how do you see India's space surge, particularly in the last decade? You know, the humble beginnings of 1960s, there are very interesting visuals of Indian scientists operating from a very first mission control room in Kerala and transporting these rocket parts in bicycle and bullock cart till finally landing on moon's South Pole. What a fantastic journey.
Yeah. So if I were to actually hop, skip and jump from the humble beginnings to the last decade, I would say there are essentially three epochs. The 1963 to 1970, the Vikram Sarabhai years, when you actually saw all of those bicycle rides and bullock cart rides and all of that stuff. And then the 1970 onwards to, let's say, about the early 1990s, where Satish Dhawan came in, and he actually made a organization out of ISRO, in my view. And he's the one who actually streamlined the whole process and figured out the plan for the next couple of decades. And he's the one who actually got the SLV-3 and the ASLV off the mark. The ASLV used to actually be a lot of failure. SLV used to be a failure. But I was actually a school kid and a college kid at that time. And what I found even then was they were actually planning for the PSLV. And the ASLV failures were what I call as well-crafted failures from where they would learn how to do the PSLV right. We are actually now marching towards like about 60 consecutive successful launches, a record that nobody else has.
2014 onwards, would you agree the way it marked a stellar decade for India in space with a big push to very, very ambitious missions? Now, out of 424, at least 424 foreign satellites launched by India, 300 plus satellites, in fact 389 roughly, were sent up in the last 9 years of the current administration. We also see the way space budget has more than doubled to give more impetus to the space sector. What do you think can be attributed to this tremendous space surge in last one decade? What was missing earlier?
Well, two or three things. Number one, I think space captures the imagination of the public, and that's actually very, very important in a democracy. And I think the Prime Minister actually captured that very well. And for him, full credit to him, because he actually fully utilized the fact that the Prime Minister's office, the Prime Minister's position is actually directly impacting the space, Department of Space, historically. And he actually gave so much push. And he's actually utilized it in his election campaigns. If you look at what is, like, for example, the publicity materials from the government, forget about even the party, right? Even the government actually front-ends space significantly towards, the nation's progress. And that's actually a showcase that a lot of Indians, pretty much all Indians are very proud about. And that's a sensation that has been capitalized, and it's for good, because space definitely actually marks an advancement in science and technology for a country.
And now we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India, aimed at assessing the preparedness and coordination of railway authorities and stakeholders during train accidents. A joint mock drill was conducted by Southern India's Trichy Railway Division and the NDRF. To further enrich biodiversity and protect the butterflies, Coimbatore, a city in South Indian state of Tamil Nadu, attracted visitors in the first butterfly park. The park features an 18-foot butterfly-shaped entrance, water management systems, environmental awareness galleries, butterfly life cycle signboards, a selfie point and a butterfly pond. among other attractions. Janmashtami is round the corner and preparations are underway across India to celebrate the festival marking the birth anniversary of Lord Krishna. This year, Krishna Janmashtami will be observed on August 26th. The holy cities of Mathura and Vrindavan in Uttar Pradesh are all set to celebrate the birth anniversary of Lord Krishna, with extensive security arrangements being put in place. A quick break ahead on DD India Live, but after the break, independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. abandons his campaign and endorses Republican Donald Trump. Aiming to garner multi-party agreement on a new government, French President Emmanuel Macron to hold second day of discussions with party leaders. Indian women dominate at Under-17 World Women Wrestling Championships to win the first ever team title.
On the Voice of Global South this week, the Philippines stand up to China's bullying. An old, rusty warship of World War II vintage exposes chinks in the Chinese armor. From troubled past to promising future, a look at Timor-Leste's journey over the last 2 decades. And will there be a change of approach on climate change at COP29? Tune in at 7 p.m. IST and 13:30 hours GMT on Saturday, August 24, only on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live. Let's continue getting you more international updates. Ukraine is celebrating its Independence Day today. Independence Day in Ukraine commemorates the country's 1991 break from the Soviet Union. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke to the members of the country's armed forces at a flag ceremony in Kyiv on Friday, as the country marked the National Flag Day. The ceremony was held on the eve of Ukraine's Independence Day.
України державними символами
є на свою свободу, на свою державу і на те, що злочинці.
US President Joe Biden spoke to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday and announced a new military aid package ahead of Ukraine's Independence Day. In the call with Zelensky, Biden reaffirmed Washington's unwavering support for Ukraine. The $125 million aid package includes air defense missiles, counter-drone equipment, anti-armor missiles and ammunition. Washington has provided Ukraine with more than $50 billion worth of military aid since 2022. In the United States, independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. abandoned his campaign on Friday and endorsed Republican Donald Trump. He ended a presidential bid that he began as a Democrat, trading on one of the most famous names in American politics. It was unclear whether Kennedy's endorsement would help Trump in the upcoming November 5th election. Kennedy said that he would remove his name from the ballot in 10 battleground states, likely to determine the outcome of the election, and remain as a candidate in other states. Kennedy said he met with Trump and his aides several times and learned they agreed on issues like border security, free speech, and ending wars.
In my heart, I no longer believe that I have a realistic path to electoral victory in the face of this relentless systematic censorship and media control. Oh, I want everyone to know that I am not terminating my campaign. I am simply suspending it and not ending it. My name will remain on the ballot in most states. If you live in a blue state, you can vote for me without harming or helping President Trump or Vice President Harris. In red states, the same will apply. I encourage you to vote for me.
Meanwhile, former U.S. President and Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump thanked Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for his endorsement, calling him a great guy.
We just had a very nice endorsement from RFK Jr., Bobby. But I just want to thank everybody, and I want to thank Bobby. That was very nice. That was really very nice. That's big. He's a great guy, respected by everybody.
In the latest updates from Venezuela, the United States, along with countries in Europe and Latin America, rejected this certification by Venezuela Supreme Court of Nicolas Maduro's presidential re-election on Friday. Now, the deputy spokesperson at the State Department, Vedant Patel, said that the court ruling lacks all credibility and discussions should be held on a respectful and peaceful transition. He also warned that continued attempts to fraudulently claim victory for Maduro will only exacerbate the ongoing crisis. While Spain and Mexico continue to insist on a detailed breakdown of voting results, Venezuela's top court certified Maduro's disputed re-election to a third six-year term, which he welcomed as historic. Further, Maduro has called for the arrest of former Venezuelan presidential candidate Edmundo Gonzalez. Meanwhile, Venezuelan Attorney General Tariq Saab said that Edmundo Gonzalez will be asked to testify about an opposition website where voting data is posted.
En las próximas horas.
In the coming hours, the citizen Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia will be cited by this public ministry on the basis of the ongoing investigation, so he can give testimony about his responsibility, where he declares himself responsible for the web page which is usurping the virtue and the jurisdiction that only corresponds to the electoral authorities. He will have to answer. He will have to come. The public prosecutor's office has the competence to summon the accused in an ongoing investigation to advance in the investigations.
UN spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric said that the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres continues to call for complete transparency and respect for human rights.
The Secretary General takes note of the decision taken by the Supreme Court. We understand that the National Electoral Council has still not released the election results by polling stations. The Secretary General continues to call for complete transparency in that regard, and he reiterates his call for the full protection and respect of human rights and continues to urge all parties to resolve any electoral disputes through peaceful means.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says the U.S. is continuing to monitor the ongoing threat from Iran to Israel and the exchange of fire along the Israel-Lebanon border. He spoke on Thursday with Israel's Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant and reiterated the importance of a ceasefire deal and the release of hostages from Hamas. Caroline Malone gets us more from Washington.
It's been 10 months since an attack by Hamas on Israel and a month since Israel purportedly killed a Hamas leader in Tehran. Iran has threatened to retaliate for that killing in its capital, but as yet no action has been publicly taken. The US has moved its military into position to help Israel with any possible defence, as it did in April when Tehran sent slow-moving drones and faster missiles towards Israel and was supported by the UK, France and other regional countries. Well, a peace deal between Hamas and Israel would help, but as yet nothing has been agreed. The US Middle East envoy Brett McGurk and CIA Director Bill Burns are in Cairo meeting Israeli security chiefs and Egyptian mediators. But there are sticking points, including that Hamas and Egypt don't want Israeli troops remaining in the area on the land near the Gaza-Egypt border near the Rafah crossing. Israel has said they want to keep troops there to make sure Hamas doesn't regroup or re-weaponize. But issues also remain over conditions to release Palestinian prisoners in exchange for the hostages. Well, in the meantime, the US is on alert for any possible moves from Iran, and hopes are fading of a deal. Caroline Malone in Washington for DD India.
The French president will hold a second day of discussions with party leaders on Monday as Emmanuel Macron tries to see if there could be multi-party agreement on a new government after inconclusive election results last month. Emmanuel Macron met left-wing and centrist politicians on Friday, including Luigi Casti and the leading left-wing candidate to be France's new prime minister. DD India's correspondent Ross Cullen gets us more.
Well, Friday marked the first of 2 days of negotiations at the Elysee Palace between Emmanuel Macron and the different party leaders. On Friday morning, local time, we did see the left-wing New Popular Front. Now, they are the alliance that won the election in terms of the greatest number of seats, although they fell well short of a majority. We saw them in attendance at the Elysee Palace. They were led by Lucie Castet. Now, she is the 37-year-old civil servant who headed up that delegation, and she is the name that has has been put forward by the left-wing to be the new French Prime Minister, and Emmanuel Macron has, for now, ruled out appointing her to that role. The current incumbent is Gabriel Attal. Now, the previous administration is remaining in place for now as a caretaker government. Emmanuel Macron saying he didn't want domestic political disruption when the eyes of the world were turned to Paris for the 2024 Olympics. But now that we have this gap in between the two games, he has gone for it and said it is time to act, although the left-wing have said that Emmanuel Macron has been procrastinating. Now, what is going to happen on Monday is that the National Rally will be the next major party to attend these talks. The far right were projected to win the election on July the 7th, the second round of the election, but in fact they finished third, although they do have the greatest number of MPs in terms of single party in the parliament. Jordan Bardella, the party leader, Marine Le Pen, the party figurehead, will be there with Emmanuel Macron on Monday, but it does seem to be difficult to envisage how the left-wing alliance that won the election or Emmanuel Macron's centrists who came second could agree to work alongside the Nationalist Populist Party in a future coalition government. Ross Cullen in Paris reporting for DD India.
3 people were killed and 4 others were seriously wounded in a stabbing attack at a festival in the western German city of Solingen on Friday night. German media have reported an unidentified man knifed passers-by at random, and at least 3 people were dead in the attack. Police said the attack occurred at a festival to honor the town's 650th anniversary. Law enforcement has cordoned off the city centre as investigations are underway. Police and forensic officers were seen working at the scene in the early hours of Saturday. In sports, Indian women wrestlers stamped their class on Friday as they won 5 gold medals at the Under-17 World Wrestling Championships 2024 in Jordan. Indian women signed off with 8 medals, including 5 golds, 1 silver and 3 bronze medals. However, India's men's freestyle wrestlers could not replicate the success of their women counterparts as none of the 5 grapplers in action could make it to the semis. Double Olympic medalist Manu Bhaker speaks exclusively to DD India's Abhishek Mahajan. She talks about the disappointment of Tokyo to the joy of Paris and shares her experience of meeting Prime Minister Modi after the Paris glory.
You also met Prime Minister Narendra Modi after you won the medals. Must have been a proud feeling to meet him again.
Yes, I've met him a couple of times and it's always inspiring and it always motivates us. The way he interacts with the athletes and almost one-on-one. So it's very heartwarming and it's always good to see him.
What did he tell you?
We had a very, informal kind of conversation, and we were discussing how the events unfolded in Paris Olympics, or what the experiences were of different athletes. So the hockey people share their experience, the athletes, like athletics people, they share their experience, and shooters also, we also share our experiences. So it's like one-on-one, different.
The full interview with Manu Bhaker on Saturday at 7:30 p.m. IST, which is 14:00 GMT. All right, that's it in this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us at in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.